Welcome to the next part of my Battletech Mercenary series. This time I'm going to be painting up 4 more mechs from the Mercenaries Kickstarter, and I will use them as canvases for 4 more renowned mercenary companies. Just like my previous video, I'm going to start with Splash Dash, which is basically a white primer followed by a dark tone plus water wash. The dark tone is going to be about 80% with the water at 20%. Spread it generously over all the mechs and make sure that you cover all of it with this wash and water mix, and then after that be sure that everything is completely dry before moving on to the next steps. For all the visible weapons on the mechs, I'm going to be using Broadsword Silver metallic speed paints, and I'm going to apply it onto all the guns that I see on any of the mechs, such as here. In this video I used the Quick Draw, the Star Slayer, the Firefly, and the Devastator. And just following this montage over here, you can see where I would apply this silver metallic speed paint. That helps identify all the weapon systems. I next use Raging Sea speed paint, and this works really well as canopy glass. I identified the canopy panels on these 4 mechs, and I just applied this greenish blue hue into them. It looks stunning on these mechs. As in my previous video, I mentioned that you can just look at the data sheets right here, and the black areas in the data sheets would denote where the canopy glass was. If you do not want to follow that guide, you can just go ahead and just watch this short video segment over here, which shows you how to paint up the canopies for all these 4 mechs. It's also worth noting that the Devastator has these little light pods on both shoulders. You want to paint those in Raging Sea as well. The first mercenary unit that we will be painting up is Team Banzai. Team Banzai is a legendary unit formed by Dr. Banzai, a brilliant scientist and mech warrior, blending cutting-edge technology with unconventional tactics. Comprising polymath warriors skilled in science, engineering, and combat, the unit operates as both a research collective and an elite fighting force. Known for their daring and ingenuity, they gained fame during the Fourth Succession War, serving the Federated Sons and turning the tide in critical battles with creative strategies. In the War of 3039, they excelled against House Kurita, using their intellect to outwit opponents. By 3058, Team Banzai was celebrated for their genius, audacity, and battlefield success. The mechs for Team Banzai follow a yellow and black simple color scheme, but actually looks really sharp. What you want to do first is grab some maize yellow speed paint, and you're going to be applying it to your mech. In this case over here, I'm using the Quick Draw for my Team Banzai mech, and then I'm going to apply it in these areas right here. I think that's really attractive to apply it to the same kind of areas that you would have seen in the painting guide that I showed just a few seconds earlier. This maize yellow is one that I just recently picked up. I really like this color. It's very bright and it's very vibrant, and it's a great color to paint if you really hate painting yellow. It just goes down really simple. One simple coat does it, and as you can see, it has amazing results. The yellow goes on some select paneling. It provides the contrast and points of interest for this mech. After that, I switched to Grim Black Speed Paint, and I carefully apply it all over the rest of the mech like this. In areas where it's kind of sensitive with a lot of small yellow areas, you want to use a smaller brush so you do not taint the areas that you had applied yellow to earlier. But just carefully lay it down. Like I mentioned in my previous video, the reason why I use this method is that I want to apply only 1 coat of speed paint onto any of these panels, and it will allow the Splash Dash panel lining underneath it to really pop through. So the mechs are going to look like their panel line like this, and it's awesome. For the Team Banzai logo, I use white and a detailing brush, and then I apply the double B logo like this with a series of straight lines to form the first B over here with 2 triangles for the top of the B, and then 3 lines to form the bottom portion of both B's. Now once you're done, it's going to look like this. Next up are the Camacho's Caballeros. The Caballeros are a proud and eccentric mercenary unit formed by Carlos Camacho, a charismatic leader who valued loyalty and family-like bonds among his troops. Drawing heavily from Hispanic culture, they cultivated a unique identity with strong traditions and fierce fighting spirit. Known for their discipline and versatility, the Caballeros thrived in urban combat and unconventional warfare. They gained fame from their service to the Draconis Combine, including defending important Combine holdings during the Ronin Wars. By 3058, the Caballeros had established themselves as a loyal, dependable, and culturally distinct mercenary force in the turbulent Inner Sphere. If you have read any of Victor Milan's novels on the Caballeros, you'll notice that their mechs are incredibly colorful and flamboyant. I'm going to be using these colors over here, starting with Orc Skin, and I'm going to apply this speed paint all over the torso of this Star Slayer here. So you can see these areas here are where I painted it green. And then after that, I'm going to be switching to a second color, which is red, and then I'm going to be applying it onto the mech's head right here, being very careful around the canopy glass, just working with a smaller brush onto the struts of the canopy. And then after that, I also apply the red onto the weapon pods, like for instance the torso mounted cannon right there, some along the cuffs. Then switching to blue, I apply it onto these areas right here, more like stripes and accents, more than the main color. And you can see how this crazy combination of colors really creates a very one-of-a-kind looking mech. It is interesting to look at and also extremely fun to paint. You can really have a ball with these colors. You do not have to apply it on these exact areas here, but I found them really close to the painting guide and it looks great. Now I switch to black. I put some on the foot pads right here. And I also go ahead and apply some black onto the hands. Now black is probably the most sparing color in this scheme. I apply it only to very small areas. I also reserved this color for jump jets. You can see me putting them on these jump jet nozzles in the back of the torso. I also decided to add one more color because why not? I use maize yellow and I apply it into small areas here just to give it even more color. So if you like a challenging and fun painting project and you like your mechs to be multicolored and flamboyant, the Camacho's Caballeros really are for you. To paint on the Caballeros logo, I'm going to be using these acrylic paints. And I'm going to be applying the logo right here in the middle of the chest, starting with a white dot for the moon. And then I switch to blue to add a few bodies of water onto the edges of that white moon. And once dry, I'm going to be whipping out the black acrylic paint and freehanding in the silhouette of a howling wolf on the lower left-hand corner of this logo. And once you're done with this, you are all set with this mech. Our next mercenary company are the Crescent Hawks. The Crescent Hawks were formed in 3020 by Archon Katrina Steiner as a covert training program to prepare for future conflicts. Initially commanded by Jason Youngblood, they combine elite combat skills with a mission to recover lost Star League technology. Unique for their dual focus on military and technological objectives, they were instrumental in uncovering advanced technologies hidden by the enigmatic Comstar. Their exploits during the Third Succession War, including surviving deep behind enemy lines and securing vital knowledge, earned them renown. By 3058, the Crescent Hawks were a legend, their legacy intertwined with technological advancement and Steiner's military strength. The Hawks use a blue, dark yellow, and gray scheme, and for this I'm going to be using these three speed paint colors right here. I start with Zealot Yellow, which is actually a more orange tone of yellow, which works great on this scheme, and I'm going to be applying it onto these armored panels. This again, I'm following very close to the painting guide. I basically apply it onto a few panels on the legs and then also on the arm pods. I also apply this yellow onto the wing things sticking out from the sides of the Firefly and then around its canopy and the front of its nose. And these add very nice, good looking accent pieces to this mech, which is later going to be painted blue. Another minor accent color is gray, and I use Gray Florid Gray speed paints in these areas here. This gray color serves as an accent color, but a minor accent color, so you do not want to apply it onto too many areas. For the rest of the mech, where it's still white, I'm going to be using High Lord Blue speed paint and painting any other panel that's white. Just like a coloring book, picking out these white panels is actually extremely simple. It looks tedious to try to work around the other colors, but honestly, give it a try. It's really simple. And the nice part about this is that even if you were to paint slightly over the gray or the yellow, the blue is opaque enough that it will cover those mistakes. So if you overshoot just slightly anywhere, don't worry too much about it, just keep on going. After you lay down the blue, this miniature is basically all done, and all that's left is putting on the logo. Of course, you can hunt down and buy a decal logo, or what's the fun in that? Just go ahead and use these acrylic colors, starting with at white in this case from Army Painter. Paint a white circle onto a big panel of the mech like here. Once it's dry, use demonic yellow and freehand in the shape of a crescent moon on the left hand side of the circle. Next, use crystal blue acrylic paint and paint the bird. Make it look like a blob coming out from the right hand side of the circle like this, and then once dry, you're going to be using burning or orange paint for the beak. Now use pure red acrylic paint to paint in the tongue at the bottom of the beak like this, and use the same red to dab on an eye right here. And finally, we have the Black Widow Company. This storied elite unit was led by enigmatic Natasha Kerensky, a renegade clan wolf warrior. Formed as an independent command within Wolf's Dragoons, the company became legendary for its unmatched combat prowess, unconventional tactics, and fearsome reputation. Composed of hand-picked warriors, the unit operated with autonomy, often taking on high-risk, high-reward missions. They gained fame during the Succession Wars, excelling in battles for Wolf's Dragoons and leaving devastation in their wake. By 3058, the Black Widow Company was a symbol of ruthless efficiency and unrelenting skill, with Kerensky cementing her status as an icon of the battlefield. This is another simple color scheme of red on black, and you're going to be using these two colors here, which is Blood Red and Grim Black speed paints. Starting with Blood Red and this Devastator here, I'm going to be applying it onto these panels. They're going to look like straight lines or very squarish looking panels. I paint the searchlights on the top of the Devastator over here with this red. You can see I'm accenting it right here. And then also I apply it down the shoulders as stripes like this. They look really attractive and they really pop on the model. Makes it look very interesting and fun to look at. Also put it around the cuffs of the arms right here, make those red. And then I add that signature red stripe down the center torso area, front and back. That's one of the signature looks of the Black Widows. I also put some red on the kneecaps and on the ankles to give it more accenting. Then I switch to Grim Black and I hunt down all the white remaining panels on the mech and paint everything that's remaining that's white, this Grim Black color. And it's really nice how even though it is blackish, the panel lining underneath it really kind of pops, and that's the look that I'm going for here. So just kind of take your time and work through the mech, make everything nice and black, and then at the end of this process you're going to have a very attractive looking red on black mech that symbolizes the Black Widows. This mech is going to sport two logos. The first one is for the Wolf's Dragoons. If you had watched my video prior to this, it is the exact same method of a red circle followed by a black trim outline, and then freehanding the shape of a wolf's head inside of the red circle, and then at the very end applying some yellow for the eyes of the wolf. And at this point, the Wolf's Dragoons logo is done. The Black Widow logo is a little bit more involved. It's going to use white, black and red. First, apply white as an outline for the spider logo. You want to apply a blob in the middle and then slowly add in streaks for the legs. You can follow the logo that I'm showing in the corner of the screen as a guide. Once dry, you will apply the black inside of that white silhouette. And once that's dry, apply a dab of red for the marking on the Black Widow like this. I follow the same basing process as before. I clean up the rim of the base with some black primer like this, and then I apply some dark wood onto the top of the base to create the illusion of sand or soil. And then once that's done and everything's dry, I use some white paint and I freehand in the names of the mechs. This serves as an identifier and also shows me where the front facing of the mech is, which is very important in the game of Battletech. And when you're putting down these letters, make sure you give yourself enough space to fit in the entire word on the front of the base like this. Next, I use a few dabs of Elmer's glue on top of each base and put some flocking on top of that glue to create patches of grass. Varnish your models with one layer of gloss varnish followed by one layer of matte varnish to create a semi-glossy look on everything. Here is the completed quick draw that I use for Team Banzai, followed by the stars layer that I use for Camacho's Caballeros. Look how colorful that is. Next is the Firefly for the Crescent Hawks. This is a really neat looking color scheme, I really like it. And finally, the painted up Devastator for the fearsome Black Widow company. Thank you for joining me in this video, and I hope that this helps you paint up your favorite mercenary company following one of these guides. You can paint any of the mechs in any of these colors, or paint up your entire collection of mechs as one scheme. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video. Until then, happy hobbying.